Don't worry, I'm fine. The story I'm going to tell you actually happened several years ago at this point. I just had someone come into my Twitch chat and send a message which kind of re-triggered the whole traumatic event, so I thought I'd share it for them. I should give a little bit of a warning. It is still a talk about a surgery, so if you're a little squeamish to that stuff, maybe just leave the like or leave the video to play automatically and then walk away, because it still helps. But if you guys do want to hear a hysterical story, make sure you stay all the way to the end. I also have an announcement. I have a stream coming up where you guys are going to buy my camping gear. So make sure you go follow my Twitch down below. You guys can actually vote on what I'm going to have to survive off of. I'm a little scared. Okay, bye. Enjoy the video. My girlfriend is a surgical nurse and they blare music the entire time. Okay, have I told you guys my full like vasectomy story? That you saying music reminded me of it. Okay, I'll tell it again. Why not? Okay, so let's go back in time. And I was 10 years old, and it was at that age that I decided I would never have children. Now everyone told me, oh, you're young, you'll get over it, you'll have children one day. Every time I heard someone tell me that, it actually just made me more strong-willed to never have children. I was like, no. And when I was dating people, like growing up or after high school or whatever, one thing that I found was like every time I would talk to someone and we'd eventually get to the conversation about kids, I would be like, well, do you want kids when you grow up? And the answer was either always yes, or the answer was, I don't know. And I learned very quickly that I don't know means yes. That was until I met Taylor, my beautiful wife, Taylor. On our first date, I think you're really awesome. This is really, you're amazing to talk to. And I would love to have a second date, but I'm gonna be real with you. Do you want children? Now, bold question to ask on the first date, but I needed to know because I didn't want to waste either one of our times if she did. She was the first girl that I have ever dated that said no. First girl to say no, Boca, you Rizzler. Okay, stop. It was a couple months after our wedding because we got married in August, and it was around November that I was like, okay, I'm going to get the surgery. If we're actually committed to not having children, I'm going to get a vasectomy. She was super supportive. I called my doctor and I said, hey, I want to get the surgery. So then he gave me two options. He said I could either pay for it, which would cost, I think it was about 1,600 Canadian dollars to like rush the line and get it done within the month. Or I could go on the waiting list, which the waiting list was anywhere between 12 and 18 months. And I wasn't in a rush, right? So I said, we'll do the waiting list. A month later, I got a phone call from the doctor's office that was going to do it. Basically what happened, he was like, hey, we actually have an opening in February. Do you want to come down to my office for a consultation? And I said, sure. Yeah, sure. So I drove to his office for the consultation. I shit you not, my doctor was 80 years old. I walked in the door and I was like, holy fuck, this is the guy that's going to be operating on me? Fucking shaky hands as he's like writing notes. Either way, I sit down for my consultation. He starts asking me a bunch of questions like, are you sure you want to do this? Why do you want to do this? We just need to make sure all our bases are covered. And he's like, okay, now let's go into the exam room. We got to do our examination to make sure you're fully healthy so we can actually do this. And I was like, oh God. The exam room chat here. Let me pull up Pirate Software. Let me pull up the paint here so you guys can get a full understanding here. So this is where I was having my consultation, was in this room. He then was like, okay, well, let's go into the exam room. Let's get you, looked at, make sure you're all good. So we walked, we walked into the exam room. I laid down on the bed, which was kind of like in this area here. He starts to examine. He's just making sure like there's no testicular cancer or whatever. He makes it all good. After he's done the examination, by the way, my pants at my ankles. I'm laying on this bed, just buck ass naked with my cock hanging out. The doctor just goes, all right, meet me back in my office. And he just walks out, opens the door with me laying on my bed with my penis just hanging out. I shit you not, there was at least 7 people just waiting in the waiting room. I made eye contact with every single individual. Dude, I basically just like stood up, walked to the side here, like pulled up my pants or whatever, and then like walked out of the room. And of course, as I'm walking out of the room, every single one of these dudes just like hard staring at me. And I'm like, guys, please. I was like, please leave me alone. And then they all started clapping. Yeah, they're like, dude, I'm surprised that shit didn't hit an earthquake when you rolled over. I walk back to the doctor's office and he's like, okay, well, you appear healthy enough to get the surgery. We just need to book a date now. I was like, okay. He's like, I have some openings in February. How about February 14th? And in my head, I kind of did a slight chuckle. I was like, haha, the irony of getting my ball sack snipped. on Valentine's Day is kind of funny. Yeah, sure, that'll work. He like double turns to his calendar, turns back to me, one more time looks back at his calendar, and he was like, just have your Valentine's Day celebration the day before. And I was like, dude, that's the craziest thing to say. I was like, what the fuck, dude? You can't just say that in the middle of this room. I'm sitting there like, okay. I kind of let out like an awkward, haha. Okay. Fast forward about 2.5 months to February 14th. I get to the area, I get everything I need, and a nurse comes out to me and she's like, hey, so you're just gonna get into the gown here, you know, like the classic gown that has like, it ties up in the back or whatever. And she's like, just don't wear anything underneath. And then when you're ready, you can come wait in the operating room. So I took all my clothes off. I put the whole gown on. I walked back into the room and I laid down on the operating bed. I don't know why I got really uncomfortable. The fact that it was like 2 female nurses. I don't know why, but in my head, I'm like, these women that I've never met in my life are about to see my nutsack get chopped open. It was not because I wanted femboys stinky. That's beside the point. I felt uncomfortable. And one of the nurses looked at me and noticed that I was clearly visibly uncomfortable. And so she asks me, she says, I can see you're a bit uncomfortable. Would you like us to put some music on when we do the surgery? It's what we normally do. Yeah, that'll probably be okay. I'm not too worried about that. And she's like, okay, it's normally what we do. But if it was going to be weird or distracting, I wanted to make sure I asked. I was like, oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. The doctor walks in. The doctor looks at me. He's like, we all good to go? This is going to be great. Last chance to ask. Do you want to back out? I'm like, a little late now. My ball sack is hanging all over the table. Let's just like get this done. He asks the nurse, can you please start playing music? Do you guys know what the first song that came on was? It was from Encanto. And it was the song where the super buff girl starts singing, I'm the strong one, I'm not nervous. That was in my head for the rest of the surgery. I could not get those 2 lines out of my head as I'm laying on the bed, completely naked. And so even after we're like 10 minutes into the surgery, which I'll get to that point, I'm still sitting there like, I'm not nervous. I'm like singing it to myself and trying to hype myself up. It didn't work because the surgery couldn't have gone worse. He said, and I quote, when he was done the surgery, that was the toughest vasectomy I'd ever had to do. They paint on like some freezing gel and then they give you the needle. That is like the full freezing, right? So that way you don't feel the needle because the needle's like this fucking big. And there's 2 types of incisions they have to do with this. There is the initial incision, which is like actually opening your skin so they can get at where they need to. And then there's the second incision, which is actually slicing away and cutting the part out that they need to. The first incision, I did not feel. He brought out the scissors to do the actual snip of the second incision. There was not enough freezing. He went for the snip. I felt every single ounce of that pain. I have never gone from not wanting to throw up to almost throwing up faster in my entire life. I was like right on the edge of just being like, everything is coming up. Like I was like, this is over. And I flinched pretty hard. So he knew. He was like, holy shit. That's what he said. He's like, holy shit, did you feel that? I was like, dude, I don't know what the fuck you did, but I need more freezing. He ended up giving me like 4 more needles. After that, I was fine. But now I'm quite visibly nauseous. And the nurse is aware of this. She brings me over a nice cool cloth to drape over my face so I can just try to stay calm. She's like, just so you're aware, I have a bucket next to you. If you are feeling sick, just let me know. And I said, okay, thank you. I appreciate it. She's like, it's okay. It happens every so often. And then when she said that line, the doctor says, yeah, it happens sometimes, especially when the scissors haven't been sharpened. What? And he's like, yeah, I'm having a real tough time at cutting this. I don't think whoever used this last sharpened them. He was using dull scissors, which meant he wasn't just doing a snip like he was supposed to. He was basically gnawing at it. They reused the nut scissors. My brothers in Christ, this is when I discovered the next side effect of freezing. Freezing takes away sharp pain. Freezing does not take away pressure. If you freeze your arm because you break it, you will not feel the pain of the broken bone sticking through. What you will feel though is the squeezing of someone doing like this to your arm. Because the scissors were not sharp enough, every time he went for a cut, have you ever tried to cut too thick of construction paper and the scissors kind of like roll? Lord have mercy. I was basically every 5 to 10 seconds having the pressure of an individual squeezing my balls every 5 to 10 seconds at full force. I was dying. I was in an immense amount of pain, and I was like, I am going to throw up or I'm going to die. This is it. I imagine that this is kind of like what women felt like giving birth. The nurse, bless her heart, she can see I'm still struggling. So she looks at me and she tries to spark up a conversation. So Elijah, what kind of shows are you into watching right now or anything? And honestly, I give her respect. I am not mad at her trying to start a conversation. That's what she's there to do. She's there to make sure the patient is comfortable, to make sure the doctor has the tools. I get it. I explained to her that I was watching The Walking Dead at the time. She looks at me and she goes, oh, I was watching this new show called The Tinder Swindler about this guy who would lure women in on Tinder, whether it was through sex or everything else, to like steal from them. And I'm like, really? I'm getting my ball sack chopped up and we're talking about sex? This went on, by the way, about 10 to 15 minutes. The entire surgery was supposed to last about 10 to 15 minutes. We end up talking about this for a little bit, and then the doctor chimes in. The 80-year-old, he's like, oh yeah, I've been watching that too. Sir, please focus. I am trusting a lot in your hands right now. I do not need to, I don't care what show you're watching. Finally, I started to feel the tug of stitches, and I'm like relieved. My stomach starts to calm down. I'm feeling great. And I was like, oh, kind of feels like you're wrapping up there. He's like, yeah, we're done with the left side. Remember how my stomach was calming down? The moment he said that sentence, I turned to the right and threw up. But that sentence made me so nauseous that I was going to have to go through that hellhole again for the next 10 to 15 minutes. That my stomach was like, oh, if he's halfway done, we should just get this out of the way. And I was like, cool. I lay back down. The doctor's like, we good to go again? I was like, you know what, doc? Can't get much worse than this. It took twice as long because the scissors were still dull and the scalpel had become too dull. What was supposed to be a 10 to 15 minute vasectomy took me 45 minutes with the doctor and the nurse talking about sexual documentaries on fucking Netflix, me throwing up, and me listening to Disney music the entire time. To give you an idea about how much damage was done, he told me in 2 to 3 days, you will be able to walk with minimal pain. At 4 days, you should be totally back to normal. It took me 2 weeks. I ended up laying down on my couch at home with an ice pack on my ball sack, and I watched the entirety of season 1 to season 11 of The Walking Dead. All in all, the doctor did a follow-up with me 6 months later, and he said, well, I'm glad that went well because I didn't want to tell you at the time, but that was easily the worst vasectomy I had ever done. Thanks, doc. Really appreciate you holding that back. That was really cool. Super cool of you. Appreciate that. And the worst part is the surgery didn't work. Yeah, here's my child.